If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
And away we go. Thank you so much, Austin Angelo, for your delightful introduction, and welcome everybody to The Game Show, the talk show all about the world of television game and competition shows. I'm Bradley Clarke, and today is a real treat for me because my special guest is not just a game show producer. He is a game show super producer. Over his incredible career, this guy has worked on a countless number of shows in which his titles have ranged from consulting producer to executive producer to executive in charge to creator. And here are just some of the shows his game show talents have graced.
You can win $32,000 on the turn of a card on Card Shark. And if you play your cards right, you can win this beautiful card. And now, the host of Card Shark, Bob Boden.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Card Shark.
Today, one of these lucky couples could win a dream vacation. Meet Nancy Rowan and Griff Gilbert. They've been dating for a year and a half. They're both students. She likes to play lacrosse and eat. He enjoys theater and singing. Meet Lana and Micah May. They've been married for 4 years. She's an aerobics instructor who enjoys working out. He's an assistant director who likes motorcycles and surfing. They're all here to play the wildest shopping game ever. Shop till you drop. And now, here's the host of Shop Till You Drop,
Four strangers, one goal, to win a head-to-head competition for the chance at $100,000. One wrong answer could be their last. This is Russian Roulette.
Tonight, we're playing the games you love to play with your family in a whole new way. Yahtzee, Twister, Cranium, Gestures, and Boggle. The games are bigger, the stakes are larger, and moments are priceless. Right now on Family Game Night. And now, here's your host, Todd Newton.
Thank you so much, Mark Richardson. Thank you all. How you doing, buddy? Thank you all for coming. Hi there, cuteness. Hi, guys. Good to see you. And welcome to all of you, especially you folks at home. We're thrilled to have you here on Family Game Night. This is where all of your favorite games come to life in every single episode.
Today on Funny You Should Ask, John Lovitz, Raven Simone, Louis Anderson, Byron Allen, Jody Miller, Maz Jobrani, and here's our host, John Kelly.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome, everybody, to Funny You Should Ask, the show where every question has a funny answer. Won't you please put your hands together one more time for these rock stars of comedy right here.
But the list goes on to include such shows as Pressure Luck, Match Game, Whammy, Boom, and many others. Joining me on the line is a man whose work I've admired for many, many years, and I'm glad I finally get the chance to talk with him about his career today. Here he is, TV Bob himself, Bob Boden. Bob, welcome to The Game Show.
Thank you, Bradley.
It is such a thrill to have you on the show today. I mean, I've practically grown up watching almost all of the stuff that you have produced in the world of game shows. So for me to talk with you today is truly an honor.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that.
This is going to be so much fun. So we're going to take an exciting trip down game show memory lane with you. And I want to get right into the discussion. But before I do that, I always like to give a teaser for the game of the day that you'll be playing later on in the show. And Bob, for your game, the tease is that it's going to be a 2-for-1 revival. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So, Bob, are you ready to talk game shows with me?
I can't wait.
Then let's get into it. So I always like to start off by asking my guests, especially since they're in the game show industry, How did you first become interested in game shows? Did you grow up watching them and that's where your passion for the genre started?
Yes, my love for game shows started at the age of 6. I had been a fan of television since as far back as I can remember, and I remember watching game shows very early in my childhood, and I realized since I grew up in New York and there were many shows taping at that time in New York, I realized that I could go see an audience taping of a game show. And I checked out the shows that were in town at the time, and I realized that the minimum age to see most of the shows was 6. So as soon as I turned 6, I asked my parents if they would take me to see Password. That was one of my favorites at the time.
This is the delightful television and motion picture star, Alan Ludden's beautiful wife, Betty White.
Thank you. And this is my partner, Jerry Fry from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
This is the popular singer, international recording star, and talented composer, Paul Anka.
Hello, this is my partner, Aloysia King from Washington, D.C., and we're all here to play Password.
Yes, it's Password. Brought to you this evening by Clairol, creators of the exciting natural look in beauty. And by Bristol Myers, makers of Bufferin, the modern drug for pain relief. Bufferin. And now, here's your host on Password, Alan Ludden.
So at the age of 6, my mom took me to see Password. And that is definitely the day that the light went on for me, that this is what I wanted to do when I grew up. I hadn't seen much color television at that time. Most of it was still in black and white. So to see the Password set in brilliant color in front of me was quite impressive. And on top of that, we were sitting in the balcony at the Ed Sullivan Theater, as it's called now. Well, it wasn't then because the Ed Sullivan Show is still on. And I remember in the balcony, they had this enormous television monitor, and that was in vivid color, too, showing what was happening on stage because the eye line from the balcony was not all that good. So they put up this enormous screen, and I thought, wow, this is the biggest TV I've ever seen in my life. So between the big TV and the color set and the gameplay, which captivated me as far back as I can remember, that was the day that it all started for me.
And as you mentioned, you grew up in New York just like myself. So, Bob, welcome back to the New York airwaves.
Oh, thank you.
Coming from experience as a young New Yorker who was deeply into game shows, did a lot of your friends enjoy that passion as well, television, and did you play games with them?
Yes, I tended to hang out with other kids who shared my passion, as most kids do. And I do remember playing a lot of board games with my parents in elementary school and in junior high. On the first day of high school, I was in French class, and the kid sitting in front of me, a guy named Steve, he turned around to me before class started, and he said, "Hey, can you help me with the jumble in the newspaper? I'm stuck on a word." And so I helped him with the jumble, and we started talking and realized that we both loved game shows. So Steve and I became best friends, and to this day, almost 45 years later, we're still best friends. He's moved out to L.A. now, and we then started to recruit other friends into our little game show cult, and before you knew it, we had a club in our high school called the TV Club, and the purpose of the TV Club was to go as a group to tapings of game shows, and at the time, there were quite a few of them in New York. So we became regulars during non-school hours, of course, at various shows. And in the summer, either my parents or my friends and I would go to many shows. And ultimately, I would go without parents, and my friends and I would just hang out. We saw so many shows. It was a real, real delight.
I'm very curious now. What are some of the shows that you saw?
We saw the original Jeopardy with Art Fleming, I Guess, Three on a Match, Jackpot. One of my favorites, the $10,000 Pyramid, which became the $20,000 Pyramid, and for a brief time, the $50,000 Pyramid, and the $25,000 Pyramid, the nighttime version with Bill Cullen. The Big Showdown, Money Maze, Pass the Buck. Oh, gosh, so many shows, pilots, a lot of pilots for new game shows. Basically anything that was at NBC Studios in Rockefeller Center or CBS, they had several studios, but the main one was the Ed Sullivan Theater, as it's called now, on Broadway. And ABC did most of their shows at what was the Elysee Theater on 58th Street, which is now gone. But that's where I spent most of my summer, was going to see these shows. Lots and lots of them. I probably forgot half of them. Sale of the Century, Joe Garagiola's Memory Game, Concentration. You name a show, I probably went to see it. What's My Line? To Tell the Truth, I've Got a Secret. All those shows. I saw all of them. And a few other non-game shows, too. The Ed Sullivan Show and variety shows, things like that. But my love was the game shows.
Last year, I went to a taping of Late Night with Seth Meyers, which is filmed in the same studio that the original Art Fleming Jeopardy was filmed in for 11 years. And there is a Merv Griffin photo outside of the studio doors. So I went to the taping with a friend of mine, and she basically heard a whole history lesson from me about the studio and where each of the Jeopardy podiums were back in the day and what other game shows filmed in that studio. Actually, Seth Meyers, when he came out before the show, he said, oh, the original Jeopardy was filmed there. I think I was the only person who actually clapped for that, but it shows you what shows I appreciate.
Jeopardy presents today's three contestants. This is Miss Kim Elam from New York City. This is Mr. Kent Jarrell from Vienna, Virginia. And this is our champion, Mrs. Karen Streisman from Freeville, New York. These three people will compete today on Jeopardy! And now, here's the star of Jeopardy, Art Fleming.
Good morning. Thank you, players. Thank you, Don Pardo. Thank you, my friend. Good morning. I hope it's a good one for you. Thank you. The contestants for the day, good morning, players. Look at the board now as we all play Jeopardy. Thank you.
So you eventually made your way to the West Coast to study theater arts at UCLA, correct?
Correct. And it's not a coincidence that the game shows were moving to the West Coast. One by one, most of the production companies were resettling or settling anew in L.A., and I realized if I was going to follow my passion, I had to go to L.A.
And then in 1981, this is so fascinating, you appeared on The Dating Game as Bachelor number 3.
Yes, I did. Not my finest moment. It was a dare. In college, there were a bunch of guys on my dorm floor, and we all sort of competed to see who could get on the dating game. And three of us, including me, we got on. And there are days I find it amusing, and there are days I find it embarrassing. But that was my first appearance.
What was it like just being on the stage with Jim Lang?
Well, it was amazing. Just to be on the other side of the lights and to be a part of the show, even though I was clearly very awkward in what I was saying, it was an absolute thrill. I didn't win the date, but that's okay.
It's the experience that counts.
Yes, indeed.
The Dating Game. Here's the star of the show and your host, Jim Lang. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And welcome once again to the Dating Game. And it's time to meet our first three eligible bachelors for game number 1, and here they are. Good luck, bachelors. Bachelor number 1 is a management trainee whose hobbies include trying to touch his toes. He hasn't succeeded, but he's trying. And he says he has terrific cheeks. Here he is, folks, Mark Solowitz. Bachelor number 2 is a painting contractor who loves car racing, dancing, and horseback riding, and hopes to break into acting. Here is Peter Leakiadropoulos. And bachelor number 3 is a student who once won a plastic bird for screaming on Wenderama. That's the truth. One day hopes to host his own game show. Good luck. Welcome, Robert Boden. Robert?
Number 3. Bachelor number 3.
Yeah?
Where's your favorite place to go into and just sort of look around?
A game show studio.
Neat. That's real neat. I'm impressed.
Well, me too.
Yeah,
that makes two of us.
Whatever. Bachelor number 3. What noise in your apartment is absolutely driving you crazy, and what's it sound like?
Well, it's my roommate.
Your roommate?
Oh.
What does he sound like?
And that's when he wakes up in the morning. You should hear him in the middle of the day. It's worse.
Oh, I imagine so.
Yeah. You also didn't choose bachelor number 3. He is a student, would like to be a game show host sometime. Sometimes I think he can have this job. Here he is, Robert Boden. Bob, come on and say hello, please. Well, you were great, too. Gentlemen, we have some gifts for each of you, and our thanks, and maybe you can come back again. I hope so. In any case, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.
So how did you jumpstart your career into professional game shows? Did the dating game ever lead anywhere in terms of getting a call? Because I know you mentioned that you wanted to be in the game show industry on the dating game.
I don't think the dating game itself really led to any professional pursuits. But when I got to L.A., I started up my old habit again of going to tapings, and I was a regular at as many shows as I possibly could see. The first show I went to see in L.A. was Match Game. They shot primarily on weekends. And if there was a school day that ended early and I didn't have work obligations, I would find a taping of a game show to go to. And I just sort of hung out there. And, you know, in those days, there was less security. And if you were in the audience, you could usually hang out, or I would find my way down to the stage somehow and just talk to people and introduce myself and tell them what a fan I was. I read an article in TV Guide about The Price is Right, and it mentioned Roger Dobkowitz, who was the producer of the show at the time. And I sent Roger a letter, and I said, I'm a fan of game shows. I knew that Roger had written his college thesis on game shows, so I thought maybe he would appreciate my passion. And he wrote back, and we started a conversation. I eventually called him and met up with him. And that led to an internship in my last quarter at UCLA on The Price is Right. And that was a thrill beyond thrills. In fact, they didn't even know what an intern was back then. I had to teach them. And I called and called and called, and I explained that I work for them for free and get school credit. And they thought, oh, that's good, free labor. So I got hired there. It took me about 6 months of calling, actually, to get that, but it was worth every call. And then I was, in a very small way, I was in the industry. I was part of the business. I also had started a job in my sophomore year at UCLA as a cue card boy. And I was working for a wonderful man named Barney McNulty, who actually invented cue cards. And I would do whatever Barney assigned me to do. And there were a few game shows in the mix, not all that many, but I did a lot of live variety shows and big specials and sitcoms and commercials and parades. And I got amazing, amazing experience. One of my favorite shows to do was a show called Real People, which arguably was the first reality show. And that was a thrill. So I was working on Real People, and Real People was all about people who had unusual passions and unique accomplishments. So I had a dorm room at UCLA, which was decorated with television tickets to different tapings of shows. So I took pictures of my wall, and I brought it in, and I showed it to the producers and pitched myself as a story on Real People. Here's a college kid who's really into game shows. And sure enough, they liked my story. They did about a 4-minute piece on me that aired on the show in 1981. And that let the world know that I existed and was a game show fan, and that helped me get some attention. I would show that video to people when I could to show them that I was serious and had great interest.
Here on the Los Angeles campus of the University of California, the students are applying themselves to the disciplines of language, mathematics, government studies, philosophy, and the like, with the goal of earning a degree from this fine institution of higher learning. Now, with that same kind of dedication, one student, Robert Boden, applies himself to an extracurricular subject, daytime TV game shows. Bob says he attended almost every network game show in the last 10 years. He travels on foot and by bus to those fortresses of American culture, the world of bells, buzzers, lights, and the elusive big cash jackpot.
And now, here's your host,
The words, and now here's your host, and come on down, are music to Bob's ears as he has one foot in reality and the other foot in the never-never land of TV game shows. That many game shows would send some people up the wall, but Bob just does that with his TV studio tickets. Robert, it's real people. How are you? How you doing, babe?
Right.
Good to see you. This is where you live. This is your wallpaper?
My room, yeah. These are my TV tickets.
How many tickets are up there?
Well, I got 900 up on the walls, and I've got 8,500 more in a box. It's a souvenir of America, living here. I mean, television affects everyone's lives, and what better souvenir of society than television, and what better souvenir of television than tickets to the very shows that we sit home and watch every night.
So between the cue cards and the real people and my other internship, which was as a research assistant at CBS in the research department, I had access to a lot of studio lots, a lot of shows when they were taping. I was doing a lot of cue card work at NBC in Burbank. So when I wasn't working on the Days of Our Lives set, I would wander over and watch tapings of, you name it, Hollywood Squares, The Gong Show, everything they did there. And I worked on pilots, and eventually my first PA job was on a pilot for NBC Daytime called Temptation, which was hosted by Jed Allen, who just passed away a little while ago. So I just kept hitting the pavement and called up everybody I knew who did this, and eventually built a network of supporters who were producers. I got to know Jay Wolpert and Mark Maxwell Smith and Ralph Andrews and people like that. Susan Simons, who was a director of daytime programming at NBC, and Michael Brockman, who was head of daytime for CBS, who later wound up being my boss. I just was out there every day. I didn't know any limits. My first professional job was at Paramount Studios in the research department, which I had gotten by way of my internship at CBS. That's how I learned about research and ratings and data collection and analysis and all that. And lo and behold, the wonderful gentleman who I worked with, Tom Watson, who was manager of national research, he left CBS to go work for Lucille Ball. And there was an opening at CBS, and he called me and he said, hey, would you like to interview for my job? So I did, and I was selected to become manager of research. And now I'm working at Television City every day. I was fortunate enough to get selected. I was in the last class of 3 people who went through a year of training in all the different areas of programming. And at the end of that year, they said, what department do you want to work in? And whatever answer you gave, they created a job for you. So I, of course, said daytime. And I wound up being a program executive in daytime, working for Michael Brockman. And I became the network liaison to various shows, in addition to taking pitches for new ideas and working with the team at CBS, Television City, and Daytime. The first show I was the exec on was Press Your Luck, which was still a pretty new show at the time.
These 3 contestants are about to play the most exciting game of their lives, which only one of them can win. Player number 1 is Lana Jones, and she plans on taking her winnings home today to New Orleans, Louisiana. Linda Epstein is player number 2. She also plans to win today so she can return tomorrow to play again. Player number 3 is Phil Thompson, an attorney from Los Angeles, California, who knows today's game represents the chance of a lifetime for him. From Television City in Hollywood, it's time to press your luck. And now, here's your host, the star of Press Your Luck, Peter Tamarkin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rod Roddy. And welcome to Press Your Luck, the most competitive game in television where players take big risks for big bucks.
And then I was given the $25,000 pyramid, which was a real dream come true because that's the show that I visited most frequently when I was growing up.
From Television City in Hollywood, this is the $25,000 pyramid. Today's special guests are from The Young and the Restless, Melody Thomas Scott, and from Police Academy 1, 2, 3, and 4, David Graff. And now here is your host, Dick Clark.
Well, thanks to Johnny Gilbert very, very much.
We welcome you to the $25,000 pyramid on a Monday, and it's a significant Monday because this week is the final week of our 14th year on the air. Let me share with you a little news bulletin that CBS sent out on March 23rd, 1973. Rob Reiner and June Lockhart are premier week guest celebrities on the $10,000 pyramid beginning Monday, March 26, 1973. Rob Reiner, co-star of All in the Family on the network, and actress June Lockhart will be the guest celebrities for the premiere week broadcast of the $10,000 Pyramid. The new game series, which makes its debut on Monday, March 26th. Dick Clark hosts Monday through Friday. The series will originate from the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City. How about that? A few years back. This is one of our early tickets that you used to get to go to the old Ed Sullivan show for the $10,000 pyramid. I'd like to have that one. I don't know where that came from. Somebody's a pack rat like me. They save them.
So here I am now working directly with the production team and with Dick Clark, who became an amazing influence in my career and my life. And I worked very closely with the folks at The Price is Right, which was exciting because I had been an intern there 2 years earlier, whether it was pilots or series, Card Sharks, a brief run show called Blackout. And I left the network just before Family Feud came back with Ray Combs, but I was there for the pilot of that.
This is the Perry family. Don, Yana, Dot, Heather, and Yvonne, ready for action. And the Mandic family. Connie, Bob Jr., Bob Sr., Ken, and Diana. On your mark. Let's start the Family Feud with the star of Family Feud, Ray Combs.
Don, I'll be back over here to see you in just a minute. The man, you guys look sharp. You right there. Thank you. Welcome to Family Feud. I'm Ray Combs, and today we have two typical American families battling it out for family honor and the rights to spending money, $10,000 in cash for their relatives.
And we did several other pilots when I was there. So I got my fill of game shows. It was truly, truly amazing.
And not just any game shows, some of the best to ever be created and air.
Oh, indeed.
So 3 of the shows you just mentioned, Pressure Luck, Pyramid, and Card Sharks, are currently part of ABC's game show revival boom called Summer Fun and Games. Pressure Luck and Card Sharks are the 2 newest additions, with the $100,000 Pyramid currently airing its 4th season. Now, as someone who's worked on these classic game shows over 30 years ago, do you like this current surge of game show revivals? And is it a thrill for you to see the new generation being introduced to these game show classics?
Yes, no question about that. ABC is going to have 6 game shows on this summer in prime time, which you'd have to go back more than 40 years to find a primetime schedule that had 6 game shows on, just on one network, by the way, not to mention the game shows that are going to be on the other broadcast networks. So this is a true renaissance for primetime game shows. And the 6 shows on ABC, all of them are revivals, and I've worked on all 6 of them at various times. So it's a particularly proud moment for me. I'm not involved in any of them directly, but I will go see all of them except the 2 that are in New York, probably. And I think it's one of the best things to happen to television. Right now, it's a summer romance with a little fling in the winter and an occasional show that makes it on in the fall and stays the whole year. But boy, the summers, I am so busy watching these game shows. There's a wonderful man named Rob Mills, who is the executive in charge of all reality, non-scripted alternative programming at ABC. He's been there many years, and it is all because of Rob that this revival has taken hold. He is a big game show fan. He really, really knows his stuff. He doesn't look at these just as old titles. He looks at them as fresh ways to revive great gameplay. And his work is brilliant, and he, I think, has done an enormously big service to the people like me who love game shows. And on top of that, Celebrity Family Feud and Card Sharks and Pressure Luck are all taping at CBS Television City, although it's not CBS anymore. They're taping in the original building where they all taped the CBS version. So to visit there and see those shows again is such a thrill.
And another one of ABC's game show revivals is Match Game, which is currently hosted by Alec Baldwin. But back in 1990, at the tail end of a nearly 20-year game show daytime dominance, ABC revived Match Game for daytime with host Ross Schaefer, and you had the chance to work on that show, right?
I did, yes.
Get ready to match the stars. From just the 10 of us, Bill Kirchenbauer. Match Game's favorite, Brett Summers. Actor, director, Bon Vivant, Charles Nelson Riley. From Mama's Family, Vicki Lawrence. International ventriloquist, Ron Lucas and friends. And from Dallas, Deborah Tremelli. As we play the all-new star-studded Match Game. And here's the star of Match Game, Ross Schaefer.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Match Game.
Game shows went through a bit of a slump in the late 80s. The network daytime lineups were crumbling. The time periods that had previously all been network-driven with programming, many of them were given back to the local stations. So the amount of available landscape for game shows was slowly going away. And in 1990, there was this rush of new game shows in syndication. There were 5 game shows that came out that year in syndication. None of them succeeded. But at the same time, I was at ABC at the time working again for Michael Brockman. After having left CBS and going to work for Dan Enright, I came back to reunite with Mr. Brockman at ABC, and we did a whole slew of pilots to try to find a show to play at noon, which was a time period that was withering away. The clearance of that time period was slowly diminishing, but we still had one more shot to put a show in there, and we settled on Match Game. The pilot was done with Bert Convey.
Get ready to match the stars. Brad Garrett. From Night Court, Marsha Warfield. Charles Nelson Riley. From Head of the Class, Christine Hahn. From Coach Jerry Van Dyke. And Terry Copley. As we play the all-new star-studded Match Game. And here's the star of Match Game, Bert Convey.
Hey, Bert. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome to Match Game. And welcome to you, too.
Shortly after the pilot, Bert Convey took ill and was unable to host the series, but we got Ross Schaefer to do it, and it was on, I think, about a year, and that was a blast, a great classic show. That was really fun.
And what was really cool about Match Game 90 was that Charles Nelson Riley returned as a regular panelist. When you were putting the show together, did the production team reach out to Charles, and was there an immediate yes from him that he'd come back?
I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but my best guess is that Jonathan Goodson, Mark Goodson's son, who was running Match Game at the time, reached out to Charles, and it was an automatic yes. I believe that he felt so identified with that show and enjoyed it so much. I can't imagine that the answer wasn't anything other than an immediate yes.
And although she wasn't a regular panelist, Brett Summers did appear on a few episodes throughout the Match Game 90 run. I'm sure it must have been such a thrill for you, being such a big fan of the original show, to see Brett and Charles sitting together on a Match Game set again, right?
Yes. I believe she did 2 weeks with some time in between, and she was older at that time and not as robust as in the past. So it didn't quite have the same magic that they had together on the Gene Rayburn version, but it was still pretty special to see them together, yeah.
4 years later, on December 1st, 1994, Game Show Network debuted. And as a longtime avid game show fan, what was your reaction to hearing that a whole entire channel was getting devoted to just game shows?
Well, not only did I hear about it, I got to be a part of it, which was an amazing, amazing break for me. It all started with a man named Dick Block. Dick Block was a respected consultant at the time and worked very closely with the folks who were running Sony Television, including a gentleman named Mel Harris, who's since passed away, and Andy Kaplan, who was at Sony for, I think, 29 years and just left last year. And the two of them decided that they wanted to go after game show libraries and build a cable network that was devoted to game shows. So they bought the Bob Stewart Library. They bought the Merv Griffin Library, which was primarily Wheel and Jeopardy, and they bought the Chuck Barris Library. So between those three, they had quite a lot of titles and intellectual property and episodes that could be used to feed into a game show network. Then the missing piece was the Mark Goodson Library, which at the time was owned by All American Television, which became Pearson, which became Fremantle. And they couldn't buy that library, but they were able to make a deal with that company to run the majority of the library, whatever existed that was clearable. So between all of that, they had enough product to go on the air with a really strong network lineup of classic shows. So Dick Block called me. Actually, Mark Summers, a dear friend, set me up to talk to Dick Block. And Dick Block called me and said, hey, we're going to start up this game show channel, as it was called at the time. So I got hired initially as a consultant and worked there for about a year or two on that. And then it kind of slowed down for a little bit, and I went to work for Jonathan Goodson at Mark Goodson Productions. I helped launch their lottery game show business, which became a big business for that company. I was in charge of their first show, which was called Illinois Instant Riches. It was on WGN TV nationally.
This is our current champion, Brenda Hoover. She's won $165,000. Here she is back again tonight to defend her title against these 15 lottery players. And there's more than $500,000 up for grabs tonight on Illinois Instant Riches. Now here's the host of Illinois Instant Riches, Mark Goodman and Linda Kohlmeyer.
Then one day I got a call from the gentleman who was now in charge of the new game show network, as it was later called. And he said, hey, we're going to launch this thing, and we want you to come over and work in programming. So I left Goodson to help launch the game show network, and I was there several months before the launch, helped put together the programming lineup and 2 live daily shows that we did, which were wraparound shows that were commentary on the game shows that aired on the network, and also we had some live gameplay. We had a morning show called Club AM with Steve Day and Laura Chambers, and we had an evening show called Prime Games with the late Peter Tamarkin.
Get ready to laugh, cheer, and jump for joy, because the greatest game shows of all time are coming your way on Game Show Network's Prime Games. Now, not only can you play along, you can win.
What a show!
That's right. Watch game show classics like Match Game, Family Feud, and Password.
Name a famous Willie.
Willie the Pooh? Get in on the game every night on Game Show Network's Prime Games, beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, where you can watch, play, and win.
So on December 1st, 1994, at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we pressed the button and the network went on the air. I was right there in the heart of it in their headquarters in Culver City.
And there's another reason how you have influenced me sitting here today, because if it wasn't for the Game Show Network, I might not have been as knowledgeable or as passionate about the game show industry.
Well, I'm happy to have provided that for you.
So one of, if not my favorite GSN programs that ever aired was the Pressure Luck documentary titled Big Bucks, The Pressure Luck Scandal, in which you were the executive in charge for. Now, the documentary was about Michael Larson, the man who memorized the light pattern on the Pressure Luck game board in 1984 and won $110,237 because of it. I know this was a passion project for you, so why was it important for you to tell this story?
Well, just to bring you up to that point, I left Game Show Network after the first year of its existence and went on and worked several other places, and then was recruited to come back in 2001. And now I was in charge of programming for the network. And when I got there, my boss, Rich Cronin, said, we're open to any ideas that you think are going to connect with our audience and help grow our audience. And I knew who the audience was because I was part of it. I was definitely straight in the target of their demo profile. So I had been at CBS when the Press Your Luck scandal occurred. I was not on the stage that day. I was the exec on the show, but I was not there that day. I was at home. But as the day wore on, I was getting communications from people who were there, including Michael Brockman, my boss, that something crazy was going on at the set. So the next day, the Monday, I got the full download of what had happened that Sunday. And the basic story is that there was a contestant named Michael Larson who had done what was considered to be the impossible. He memorized the patterns of the bouncing lights on the Press Your Luck board, which, given the technology at the time, were not actually random patterns. They were set patterns, but there were 5 different ones. And he, through a series of viewing experiences that lasted several months, he took very careful notes on where the lights bounced from square to square on this board and memorized the 5 patterns. So he comes out to the show, gets on, and all of a sudden he starts hitting the best squares on the board time after time after time.
And he's going again. Stop! 4,000! You're up to 56,851. You have 4 spins left. You have over $50,000 more than Janie and Ed put together. Okay, Michael's going again. 56,851, and he's going again. Stop! Stop at 5,000 and a spin. I can't believe this. Michael, you're at $61,000 and change. Go once. Go on, he says. Oh, Michael. Oh, nerves of steel. 4,000 and a spin. 65,851. Michael, you have over $65,000. Do you know what that means? Do you know you have over $65,000?
Not anymore.
You do. What are you going to do? Again. Unbelievable, Michael. Stop at 5,000 and a spin. Michael, you have over $70,000 and you still have 4 spins. You must have rolled 25 times without a whammy and you're still going? Oh, my. Oh. 4,000 and a spin. 74,851. Michael, you have rolled 31 times without a whammy. 31 times.
So he wound up with $110,000 plus on a show that retired people when they hit $25,000.
Michael here in the studio. You've won a sailboat. 12 feet of fun and enjoyment in the water. It's nothing. Let nothing come between you and the water. The mini fish from AMF Alcourt. And we'll fly you and your companion round-trip coach from Los Angeles to the Bahama Islands for a 6-night stay, modified American plan at the Bahamas Princess and Tower Resort and Golf Club on exciting Grand Bahama Island, offering tennis, swimming, casinos, gourmet cuisine, and international entertainment by Bahamas Princess and Tower Resort. And finally, Michael, you won a Hawaiian vacation. A round-trip flying holiday for 2. Air coach via Western Airlines spaceship from Los Angeles to Honolulu. Western's Islander service features warm hospitality and delicious cuisine. You'll stay at the Kauai Surf Resort, situated on Kalapaki Beach in Hawaii. 200 acres of tropical grounds, luxury rooms, island entertainment, and warm traditional hospitality. The Kauai Surf Resort. Those prizes totaling $5,287. Combined with the $104,950 in cash you've won, gives you an all-time grand total, Michael, of $110,237. Congratulations!
Michael, $110,237. You have won more money than anyone's ever even thought about winning on Press Your Luck. That is by far the most ever won on this show. You are the all-time champion, retired, and we got a special call from the president of CBS thanking you for retiring as the Hall of Fame all-time winner in the history of Press Your Luck. Michael?
And at the time, everyone was just blown away with his performance and his stamina and his consistency. So CBS had a dilemma because he didn't actually break any rules. Upon review, everyone realized that he didn't do anything wrong. He was just smarter than we were. So he beat the board. He beat the show. He won a lot of money as a result of it. And that episode was so long that they had to split it up into 2 halves and run it over 2 days because it couldn't fit into a half-hour slot.
Well, they say there's a first time for everything. And this is the first time we've not been able to complete our game in the appointed time. So we will continue this incredible run of spins on Monday's program as Michael Larson continues to press his luck.
Today, these 3 players are after high stakes, but they'll have to avoid the whammy as they play the most exciting game of their lives. From Television City in Hollywood, it's time to press your luck. And now, here's your host, the star of Press Your Luck, Peter Tomarkin.
Thank you, and welcome to Press Your Luck. Well, for the benefit of our viewers who weren't with us on Friday, let me explain that we ran out of time before we could finish a very exciting game. So let me bring you all up to date right now. This is Ed Long. Ed is a Baptist minister from La Crescenta, California, who is a returning champion, having won $11,516 on last Thursday's show. Ed came to the bonus board in Friday's game with 2 spins and $4,080. And Ed has yet to take those 2 spins. Janie Litkus. Well, she racked up the most money in round 1, having $4,608 to her credit. And she will play last in the second half of the game that began Friday. Janie is a dental assistant from San Bernardino, California. And this is Michael Larson, an unemployed ice cream truck driver from Lebanon, Ohio, who has had an amazing run at our board. So far, in 15 spins, Michael has managed to avoid the whammy and has racked up a total of $36,851. But he has 4 spins left, and we'll see what he does with them as we pick up the game in progress.
So CBS aired part 1 on a Friday and part 2 on the following Monday, and then the show never aired again. The reruns of Press Your Luck were sold, but those 2 shows were not in the package of reruns. So those shows had never been seen since 1985 when they originally aired that one time. So here I am, 2001. I started Game Show Network on September 10th, by the way. The next day, the world almost came to an end. And they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, there's a story that really needs to be told. And it so happened that the network had just acquired the rerun rights to Press Your Luck. And the deal wasn't signed yet. So I asked the business affairs attorney at GSN to look at the deal. And I read through the deal, and it said the network is entitled to air all episodes of the show except episode 188 A and B. And I knew what episode 188 A and B were because I remembered those numbers from when I was at CBS, and I knew those were the Larson episodes. So I told the business affairs gentleman, I said, you need to go back and cross that out and make sure we get the rights to those episodes. So sure enough, he revised the contract. It got signed. I don't think anybody on the Fremantle side, or it was probably still Pearson at the time, realized that those were special episodes. So we now had the broadcast rights to those episodes. So I said, we've got to do a special to tell that story that had never been told. Perhaps one of the most unique stories in the history of game shows, if not television. So he agreed to that. We worked out a deal with Fremantle to get the clip rights to integrate the clips from the show into this 2-hour special that we produced with an outside production company, Termite Art. And we aired this 2-hour special, which was, in my opinion, one of the best things I've ever done. It was a real analysis of how Michael Larson won, how he studied.
Michael would yell for me, Tracy, he said, come here. He said, you've got to see this. He said, watch this guy on here. Watch it.
Michael saw something in Press Your Luck that nobody else saw, save a few technicians.
It was just a matter of studying it, watching it over and over and over and over.
What was he looking for so obsessively? Well, it would take 19 years for us to find out.
He was almost in a trance state. He would watch and count how many flashes that went around the board.
Then one triumphant night, Michael Larson's quest ended.
Yeah! He was like a kid at Christmas time. He was just so excited. He said, I've got it.
It'll work. You gotta see this.
Michael had cracked the code. He knew then what he had to do. He was heading into L.A., straight into our lives.
When you're in the Los Angeles area, we'd love to have you come to our contestant tryouts.
He had passed away by that time, so we didn't get to talk to him, but we spoke extensively to his brother, and we did a full forensic analysis of the board patterns and how Michael did what he did. So the show aired in 2003, and it went through the roof. It really helped put Game Show Network on the map. And for the next 9 years, that show stood as the highest rated show in the history of the network. So I'm very, very proud of that show. And on top of that, we were in production on a new version of Press Your Luck at the time called Whammy. And I said, let's do a reunion show with Michael's brother representing him and the two original opponents. And sure enough, we did a full episode of Whammy with those three players, recreating the competition that had taken place in 1985.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Whammy. You know, in 1984, game show history was made when Michael Larson, an unemployed ice cream truck driver, went on Press Your Luck and won $110,237, beating his opponents and the big board. Well, since Michael has passed away, today we've reunited his opponents and invited his brother James to take his place and play Whammy. Let's go.
The game with big bucks and whammies is even bigger and better than ever. It's time to press your luck and play Whammy. Let's meet today's players. Ed Long. In 1984, when he went up against the big board and Michael Larson was a youth pastor. Today, he's a director of an honors program at Central Michigan University. Say hello to Janie Dakin. In 1984, she was a dental assistant. Today, she's the mother of 3 teenagers and sells boats with her husband. And Michael Larson's brother, James Larson, a chemistry teacher, is here to see if he can avoid the whammy and take home big bucks. And now, please welcome our host, Todd Newton.
Thank you very much, Gary Kroger. It's a big day around here. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to a very special episode of Whammy where you can spin your way to some great prizes and some big bucks. But I tell you what, before we get started, let's take a look back to 1984 when Michael Larson made TV history.
Michael, I've never seen anyone press their luck like you are, and you are pressing your luck. 52-851, and he's going again. Stop! 4,000!
Now, we just want to tell you folks at home that due to modern technology, it is completely impossible to figure out the pattern of this board. James Larson is like, well, we'll see about that. I can see the look in his eye.
And spoiler alert, Michael's brother won.
Here we go. Who's it going to be? The big rematch? Okay, big Stop it. Move 1, space 2. A hot air balloon adventure. Tiffany Lamps or the double whammy?
I'll take the hot air balloon adventure.
The hot air balloon adventure. Let's see if it's enough. It's worth $12.25. Not going to do it. James, Mr. Larson, the legacy continues. What is it? It's genetic. $6,695.
Now, by this time, the technology had advanced to a point where the patterns on the board truly were random. So there was no possible way that anyone could beat the system or memorize the patterns. But it was great television, and that was the icing on the cake for me to tell that story.
The Michael Larson reunion whammy episode is one of my favorite game show episodes of all time. And one of my favorite moments during the episode was in the first round when James Larson hits Big Bank on his second spin, and Ed Long says to Todd Newton, "I've seen this before."
James, back to you with 1,300. He's going to press his luck. Stop! Stop and Big Bang!
I've seen this before, Todd.
Yes, I know you have, Ed.
And Michael's brother actually won the game with just one prize after he just hit a whammy. I remember it was a digital grand piano worth over $6,000, and that was enough to keep the Larson legacy alive. Brad fact.
Now, you are up to 89-83, and I can't help but notice that you do your hands just like your brother did. We got this thing going. You're scaring poor Janie to death over there. All right, 89-83, you're in first place, 4 spins. What are you going to do?
Go for it. Let's go for it. Big bucks, no whammy. Stop.
Stop, and a double whammy.
Oh, no.
I better file these important financial documents.
You know, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you can't help but think that the whammy's been waiting almost 20 years to do that. You know what I
think so. I think so.
All right. Unfortunately, he took all your money, but he's going to put it in the big bank there, which gives us a new big bank total of $15,713. The money's not out of your reach. You still have 3 spins. You want to press your luck, get back into this game? Okay.
Big bucks, no way. Stop.
Stop, and a digital grand piano worth $6,695. You're right back in first place, 2 spins. And he's going to pass. Wow. All right, how un-Larson-like of you. There, all right.
And still, to this day, when I watch pre-Michael Larson Pressure Luck episodes, I look for the 212-194 light pattern because that was the main one Michael used to hit the 5,000 in a spin, or 4,000 in a spin, or 3,000 in a spin. Brad fact! And when I watch the show with my friends, I always tell them about how Michael was able to figure out the board, and I show them the patterns, and that squares 4 and 9 never had a whammy. So for me, Michael's story is still part of my life.
It was a great story that needed to be told, and I'm very proud that I got to tell it.
So going back a couple years, let's talk a little bit about Greed, because the first time I ever watched Greed, when they re-aired it on GSN, I was so mesmerized by, the set and the idea of, wow, $2 million. So this was around the time where the big primetime game show boom occurred with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on ABC in 1999. So shortly after, in November, Greed came on, and you were behind the creation of that, correct?
Yes, it was a wonderful story in my career. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came on in August of 99, and within 3 days, it had established itself as a hit, and by the end of the first week, it was a monster hit. It really captivated America, and it had been, for the most part, the first primetime game show in almost 4 decades. So Dick Clarke, a very smart man who was keenly aware of industry trends and was a visionary in many ways, he realized that Millionaire was going to be a monster hit. And his son, Rack Clarke, who worked with him, called me on that Wednesday, on the 3rd day of Millionaire. And he said, Dad believes that there's going to be a rush of game shows that are going to go on the other broadcast networks because of the success of Millionaire. And he wants you to create something and bring it to us, and we'll go out and sell it with you. Well, what a dream call that was. So I put on my thinking cap. I knew that it had to be a big money show. I didn't want it to be exactly like Millionaire. So I created a game that had a team element to it. And 2 days later, on that Friday, I went in and pitched a show to Dick and his associates, including Rack and Barry Edelman. And the show was called All for One. All for One was a show which was about teamwork. There were 5 players who knew each other. They were coworkers or schoolmates or neighbors, or there was some affinity between the 5 people. And they had to agree on a series of answers. The show Divided, that was on GSN briefly a couple years ago, still repeats in the middle of the night. It felt a little bit like that in my eyes. It was about having to have a consensus and making people convince other people that answers were right. So I pitched that idea to Dick and his associates, and they said, this is really good. We like the team element, but it needs to be a little more combative. Mike Darnell, who we were ultimately going to sell the show to at Fox, he was all about conflict and all about heightening the excitement and giving something that was highly, highly promotable to the viewer. So they wanted me to hype it up a little bit. He suggested that the teammates not know each other, that they be strangers. So I reworked the show over the weekend, brought it back in on Monday, and it was now an individual play game, but it was still a team. So they were working together up till a point, but then they could ultimately decide whether to quit or continue individually after a certain point on the money ladder. So Dick and his people like that. We brought that in to NBC the next day, Tuesday. We met with a wonderful man named Rick Ludwin, who was in charge of all variety and late night specials. There was no reality department at the time. And Rick said, this is a great idea, but we own the rights to 21. So if we're going to do a big money game show at NBC, it's going to be 21. So he passed. And the next day, Wednesday, we brought it in to see Mike Darnell at Fox. And Mike jumped up and down, literally. He's known to be very excitable in a meeting when he likes a show idea. And he was like, this is great. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. We have to get this on the air. But you got to add another element where the people can steal each other's money. And we thought about it and said, wow, that's mean. That's something that had never been done before. But he wanted it, and he's the network, so whatever the network wants, the network gets. So we went back to the office. We redeveloped the show again. We needed a title that had more bite to it than All for One. That was a little soft. And we were brainstorming titles in the office one day, and someone said, well, what's the core behavior on this show? And I said, well, it's really greed. And, you know, greed has been a foundation principle of many game shows over time, but nothing had ever been called greed. And it was sort of the elephant in the room, if you will, because many game shows were built on greed, but none of them had that in the title. So we batted around some ideas, and I remember saying, what about the greedy team, the greedy bunch, the greedy group? And Dick Clarke said, wait a minute, we're missing it. Let's just call it Greed. And that became the light bulb moment. We changed the name to Greed. We looked at this stealing element that Mike wanted, and we decided to have a random device that would land on one player at various points in the game and allow that player to choose one of his or her teammates to go up against head-to-head, and whoever survived that one-question challenge would steal the other's money and be playing for an additional amount than the other teammates were. So the best part of that was the name that we came up with for that piece was The Terminator.
All right, Russell. That's the sound of the Terminator. The Terminator gives one player a chance to eliminate another player and take their money by challenging them to a one-question showdown. Or you can keep the team the way it is. It's up to you. However, if you do decide to challenge someone, I'll give $10,000 to the challenger, win or lose. So let's activate the Terminator. Well, Captain, the Terminator has found you and selected you. You want to keep the team the way it is, or do you want to challenge someone? I'll give you $10,000 if you challenge, no matter what.
I'm going to challenge Andy.
You're going to challenge Andy. Okay, let's go. You're the challenger. You'll be on this side, Andy. Take this side over here, please. Right here. Here you go. Sorry. We'll get this worked out.
All right.
We'll all dance in a minute. Okay, first of all, by challenging, I'm going to give you $10,000, Russell. That's yours. Put it in your pocket. It's all yours, no matter what happens. Okay, gentlemen, the winner of this is going to be playing for $80,000 on a $200,000 question. Here is your question. Good luck. Which city is the home base for Oprah Winfrey's talk show? Russell.
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois is absolutely correct. Andy, thank you so much for playing the game. We enjoyed having you. Another victim of greed, Russell. Here you go. He's the captain. Well, Russell, because you beat Andy in the showdown, you took his piece of the pie as well as you won. You'll be playing for $80,000 on this next question. Everyone else plays for $40,000.
So we went back into Fox. we showed Mike the new format with the Terminator and the title Greed, and he said, this is it. This is going to go on the air. You guys do a pilot right away, and we're going to get this on as soon as we can. And then he said, you know what? There's no time for a pilot. We knew at that point that Millionaire was going to come back on the air in November because it had been such a huge hit. And he said, we have to beat them on the air. So he asked us to do a presentation for his boss, Doug Herzog. We showed the show to him, and he loved it. And he said, let's do this. And we then rushed like madmen to get this show launched. And 9 weeks and a day after we pitched it to Mike, it went on the air. It was called Greed.
From Los Angeles, it's the biggest game show in television history, where one person in one night could walk away with $2 million. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Greed. And now, Chuck Woolery.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be making television history tonight. You know, no one has ever tried to give away $2 million on one show, but it could happen right here tonight on Greed.
It went on November 4th, 1999. We're about to have the 20th anniversary of it this year. And Chuck Woolery hosted it. And we were, in some ways, derivative of Millionaire. We had similar lighting patterns, similar music cues, a lot of very drawn-out drama. But we were different in a couple of ways. Our top prize was $2 million, because $1 million wasn't enough for Mike Darnell.
All right, now every team has a common foe. In this case, we call it the Tower of Greed. Let's take a look at it. We start off with $25,000. We double that to $50,000. We then make $75,000. We go in $25,000 increments all the way up to $100,000. We then double that to $200,000, take it to $5,000, double that at $1 million. We double that for the jackpot of $2 million.
And it was a team game for the first 4 questions. So the team worked together to answer multiple part questions up until the $100,000 level. And then basically the team had to come up with one set of answers, and the captain of the team had the right to change one answer going up the ladder to the $200,000 question, the $500,000 question, the $1 million question, and the $2 million question. And the number of choices increased for each question, so presumably it got harder. And after every question in that second half, we had a terminator to eliminate a team member, and we had the ability for each player to decide whether they were going to continue or not. So those were all new elements. Standards and practices at Fox felt that the terminator was too mean, so we made it a choice where the player didn't have to pick somebody, but we wanted them to pick someone, or you didn't have that moment. So we convinced Standards and Practices to allow us to bribe the contestant with a $10,000 prize if they chose to go head-to-head against one of their teammates. And they allowed that, and virtually every time the Terminator landed, the player took the bribe and elected to go head-to-head with a teammate who became an opponent. So it did fairly well, had a strong premiere, and we had shot 6 half-hour episodes because Millionaire, for the most part, in its August run, was a half-hour show. So we were planning to be a half-hour show as well, but Mike, because he's all about hype and promotion, he told us to go on the air that first night with a 2-hour special.
Tonight, a special 2-hour event, the biggest game show ever, a $2 million win, Greed, starting right now on Fox.
So we said, okay, but you have now used up 2/3 of the inventory that we have shot and edited. So if this series is going to continue, we're going to need to shoot more episodes pronto because there's only 1 hour left of material. And if you're going to go to an hour format, because Millionaire was essentially going to an hour format, you've got to have more episodes in the can. So we got to pick up for more episodes before we even went on the air so that if the series should succeed, we would have enough in the bank to continue to air it. So we got an order for 6 more hours, and then the show continued to do well. and then we got an order for 6 more hours, and then ultimately another order for 13 hours. And we did a total of 44 and a half episodes. We did a half hour That 70s Greed.
It's That 70s Greed with groovy 70s trivia.
You'll dig the money buy.
Special all-new Greed coming up next on Fox.
Which was a companion to That 70s Show that we aired one night on Fox. So we did 44-hour episodes and 1 half hour. If we had had more time to develop it, it probably could have been even better. But there was a change in management at Fox, and the new person who came in just didn't like game shows. We were still doing fairly well on Friday nights, but she just didn't care for game shows, so we were a victim of that.
Did you ever think you'd give out the $2 million prize?
Well, we hoped we would give out the $2 million prize. We did ultimately give out a $2 million prize, but it was during a promotion we did in the May sweeps of our one broadcast year, where we actually doubled the money values, and we did Super Greed with a top prize of $4 million.
From Los Angeles, the biggest game show in television history just got bigger. Tonight, one player could now walk away with over $4 million. This is Super Greed. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Woolery.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to Super Greed, where the top money values are doubled and one player could walk away, listen to this, with over $4 million. A lot of money.
And on one of those episodes, we did give away $2 million.
Here is your $2 million question. Good luck. I said it was the 90s. Which 4 of the following 8 events occurred in the 1990s? Berlin Wall falls. Jerry Garcia dies. Original Nintendo video game system introduced in the U.S. Exxon Valdez disaster. Clarence Thomas becomes U.S. Supreme Court Justice. Michael Jackson marries Lisa Marie Presley. Johnny Carson does his last Tonight Show. New Coke is introduced. 4 of those events happened in the 1990s. You have no freebie, so it's 4 out of 8. David, give me an answer, please.
Clarence Thomas was definitely appointed during the decade of the 90s.
That's 1. Lauren.
I'm very certain that Jerry Garcia died in the 90s.
That's 2. Phyllis.
Michael Jackson wed Lisa Marie Presley in the 1990s.
That's 3. Phyllis, we need one more answer. It's up to you to answer, or you can pass it off to another player.
Well, David did so well for me last time. I'm passing it on over to David.
I'm glad you did.
David?
The correct response is Johnny Carson's last show.
There are 4 answers, Phyllis. You want to change any one, or do you want to keep them the way they are?
I like them. I like them.
$2 million. She's standing on the answers she has. Let's go. Garcia dies. Yes. 1. Michael Jackson weds Lisa Marie. That's 2. You're 2 away from $2 million. Johnny Carson does his last television show in the 1990s. That's 3. Well, they are 1 question away from $2 million. I've never given away this much money on this show once, have I? Never. This is the most I've ever given away. It's all hinging on Clarence Thomas being appointed to the Supreme Court in the 1990s, and was he? That's the question. That will give Phyllis $400,000, David $800,000, and Lauren $800,000. Clarence Thomas for $2 million.
And then we gave away $1 million a couple of times, including to one individual player named Curtis Warren. He was a fun contestant who had spiky hair and a really nice guy, very smart.
Welcome back to the Greed $1 million moment. Well, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Curtis has beat Melissa, the Terminator showdown. Now it's time to play for that $1 million. You're going to have 30 seconds to think about your choices for this $1 million question. Got 10 seconds to give me all 4 of your answers. If you don't give me all 4 correct answers before 10 seconds is up, you win nothing.
Got it.
Ready to go?
I'm ready to go, Chuck.
Good luck to you, Curtis.
Thank you very much.
Here is your $1 million question. Which 4 of the following 8 television shows also hit the big screen as theatrical motion pictures? McHale's Navy, Hawaii Five-0, Melrose Place, Flintstones, Bewitched, Miami Vice, Dragnet, Beverly Hillbillies. Have it all?
I got it all.
Your 30 seconds starts now.
Okay, I know McHale's Navy was. I know the Flintstones got on there. Dragnet with Dan Aykroyd. And the Beverly Hillbillies, I believe, was just made into a movie not too long ago with Jim Varney. So I'm ready to go.
Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Those are your 4 choices.
They're there. I think I named them off, didn't
Let's
I?
go over again one more time.
McHale's Navy, the Flintstones, Dragnet, and the Beverly Hillbillies.
Here we go.
Show it.
McHale's Navy. Is it correct? Dragnet. Is that correct? The Flintstones. Yes. Curtis, if the Beverly Hillbillies is correct, you, I believe, will have won more on a game show than anybody in the history of game shows.
I'd like that.
It'll be $1,410,000 for the $1 million. Is it? Call for it. Come on, call for it.
Give me the Beverly Hillbillies.
Congratulations, buddy. Congratulations.
We almost gave away the $2 million on our second episode. We had a contestant named Dan Avila, who was the only surviving member from the team. Everyone else had quit and taken their money, but he decided to play on. So he went to the top of the ladder, and he was playing for $2 million. It was actually $2,200,000 because we had a gimmick where we would add $100,000 to the top prize every time it wasn't won. So he was playing for $2.2 million. And his question was about the most recognizable odors, according to his survey. And he missed on the last answer and left with nothing.
So are you ready for the jackpot question worth $2.2 million?
Yes, I am.
Let me invite you right down here. Stand on the left right there. All right, Daniel. Here is your question. According to a Yale University study of the most recognizable smells, which 4 of the following 9 topped the list? Baby powder, peanut butter, mothballs, tuna, coffee, dry cat food, chocolate, cinnamon, Vicks Vapo Rub. You feel confident? It's a tough question.
That's a tough question.
Well, it's worth a lot of money, so I know you understand.
I know.
Yeah.
They weren't going to make it easy.
No.
I'm going to say tuna for sure. Then peanut butter. Peanut butter is my next choice. Coffee is my third choice. And Vicks Vapor Rub.
Okay, those are your 4 choices. Does he get a chance to change anything? Okay, you don't have a chance. You're captain, but all those things are gone.
I know.
Well, boy, oh boy, here we go. All right,
Okay.
Daniel, let's take a look together and see what we think. Do we have peanut butter? Yes.
Okay.
Very distinctive smell.
Jeez. One.
Is coffee there? Yes.
Okay. 2 down.
2 answers away from $2.2 million, Daniel. How about Vicks Vapor Rub? Yes! Oh, man, you may get it. You may get this, Daniel. You may get this.
I hope so.
Close. Oh, no.
My heart.
Oh, this is a good answer. It's one of the. I think it's a great answer. I really do. Let's hope. I don't know what's there either. Let's hope that that's it. For $2.2 million, is it tuna? Daniel. I never would have guessed. I never would have guessed it's chocolate.
Neither would have I.
Because it's not a pungent smell.
Exactly.
Oh, Daniel.
Okay.
Well, my friend, you showed an enormous amount of courage.
Thank you.
You were great to have on the show. Okay. I am so sorry you're leaving with nothing.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for playing. You made our lives. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Welcome.
Thank you.
He was a courageous soul and an incredible promotional device for our show in its earliest days. That was pretty spectacular.
Lastly, I want to talk about The Chase, which is one of GSN's biggest and most successful game show originals in its history. However, what many people might not know is that there were 2 pilots of The Chase filmed for Fox over in England, where the show originated, with Mark Labette, the Beast, as the chaser for one pilot, and Jeopardy super champion Brad Rutter as the other chaser. Brad fact! Why don't you talk about how those pilots came to be and how The Chase eventually found its way onto GSN?
I got a call from ITV, which owned the format, and they had sold a pilot of the show to Fox. Mike Darnell was still there, and he was a fan of mine. So they approved me to produce the pilot for Mike for Fox. We decided to do it in England on their set because it was cheaper than building a set because the set needed to be pretty massive. So we went over to England. They did their regular afternoon show on a pretty small set without an audience, but they also had a celebrity version, which was a much larger set, and that was done in front of an audience. So we coordinated with the folks in England to shoot our pilot on their larger celebrity set. I went over there with Brad Rutter, who was my choice to be the American chaser, and then we also did a pilot with Mark Labette, the Beast, who wound up being the chaser on the GSN version.
Tonight on The Chase, we've combed the country to find the brightest,
Pulp Fiction.
Snitch, bravest,
I'm a 6-time U.S. sumo champ.
and courageous enough
Challenge accepted.
to take on the world's undisputed mastermind.
You can't beat me, so go home now.
For a chance to win,
$500,000.
these mere mortals will try to survive the most gut-wrenching mental smackdown ever.
I win. That's what I do. That's all I do.
As they face off together in an epic 4 versus 1 battle with the world's ultimate Einstein, Mark Labette, the Beast.
I can't believe you got that right. You're mistaking me for someone who cares. My job is to catch them by any means necessary.
Will they bring this genius down?
There's nothing that's going to stand in the way of not even the Beast.
Or will they suffer a crushing defeat?
The law is simple.
That is wrong. Wrong. That is wrong.
You lose.
Against his enormous intellect.
Tungsten, Esmeralda, Peanuts, Catskills, Beethoven, Brain, Elizabeth I.
And ego.
Now I'm going to destroy you.
Then I feel seriously tricked.
Can these everyday civilians stay ahead of the chaser?
Are you mad?
The emotional roller coaster ride begins now.
You ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready.
No, I'm not.
I'm always ready.
Well, I wish you luck, because the chase is on. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to The Chase. Today's team of 4 total strangers believe they have what it takes to beat one of the world's best quiz brains and take home over $500,000. Oh, I hope so.
We brought in 8 contestants, 4 of whom appeared in each of the 2 pilots we shot, one with Mark and one with Brad. And we delivered the show to Fox. We're very proud of it. It was, I think, one of the best shows I've ever worked on. And Fox was very intrigued by it. But lo and behold, Mike Darnell left the network. So ultimately, Fox passed. And GSN had been stalking this show. They wanted it badly. And I would get calls from them on an almost weekly basis saying, when is the option up at Fox? Because we're interested. And I kept pushing them back because Fox kept renewing the option because they didn't want to let it go, but they weren't ready to press the button. Then when Mike left, we got it back at ITV. And the next day, GSN called ITV and made a deal to do the show for them. So we were in production for the first season was 8 episodes. And for GSN at the time, this was a pretty big gamble. They had done a couple of big shows in the past, but this was a very expensive show, particularly because of the potential prize money, which was theoretically unlimited. And they commissioned 8 episodes. We shot them and started to edit them. And then we got a call saying, you're picked up for a second season. And we're like, wait a minute, we haven't even delivered the first episode, and you're already picking us up for a second season. And they said, yes, we like what you did so much. We believe in this, so let's do 8 more. And the 8 turned into 9. And then the show went on the air and did very, very well for them. And they ran the first season, waited a bit, ran the second season, and then they picked up a third season, which became 14 more episodes. And we did those. And then they picked up a 4th season, which was 20 episodes. So overall, we had 51 episodes for this 4-year run. And Mark Labette was the chaser on all the episodes. They wanted only him. And so we, of course, gave the network what they wanted.
He's the trivia king with an IQ of 155. He's beaten hundreds of contestants.
Leningrad, Steffi Graf, Cuneiform, The Tempest, Ports, Feng Shui, Horrorfilm, New York, Graceland, Pack Your Bags.
What are you, chicken?
No, that was just a warm-up.
This season on The Chase, this Oxford-educated math genius.
Math is not my strong point.
It is mine.
Has already conquered Great Britain.
It is insulting.
It's what I do.
Now he has his sights set on America.
I am to be feared.
Can any of these brainiacs win against the beast, Mark Labette?
Over my dead body.
PhD masters.
You are in so much trouble.
Let's bring it on.
And tonight, see if this chess champion, this graphic designer...
You're gonna get me in trouble with the lady.
...and this MBA grad...
I'm going to enjoy defeating you.
We'll see who falls.
...have the right moves to tango with the tyrant of trivia.
You have got to go.
The chase is on! To The Chase. Today's team of 3 total strangers believe they have what it takes to beat one of the world's best quiz brains and possibly take home a ton of cash. Let's meet the team. We have Jonathan, Corey, and Heather. One by one, they'll answer a series of questions to build up the team's bank. But in order to win that money, they have to beat the Beast. Anyone who gets caught is out of the game. But if they avoid getting caught, they go to the final chase with a chance to win a share of the bank. In the UK version of this show, he stopped opponents from winning millions of dollars. He's the Brad Pitt of the trivia world, minus the money and the good looks. Unleash the Beast! Beastie?
Good evening, Brooke.
How are you?
But you reckon I haven't got good looks?
Oh, did I say that?
You should at least realise now you've worked with 2 of the hottest men around, David Hasselhoff and me.
And we remained one of the highest rated shows in the history of the network. I believe it's still the most enduring original show in terms of audience delivery in the history of the network. It still runs every day at 3 o'clock Eastern. Even though we only shot 51 episodes and we shut down about 5 years ago, they're still running those episodes every day.
And another Brad fact. The largest solo money winner on the Chase USA was a man by the name of Raj Dawalia. He won $125,000 by defeating the Beast, but he was a contestant on the Mark Labette pilot episode.
Yes, he was. And we had 5 contestants on the pilots who we liked so much that we wanted to bring them back and do the series. And for whatever reason, at the time, GSN said, no, we don't want the pilot contestants to be on the series. I'm not sure if it was they thought that they might have an advantage over the other contestants because they already knew the show and had been on it. They didn't win any money on the pilot because the pilot was not for broadcast, so they just got paid a flat fee. So we just kept going back and hounding them to allow us to put our favorite people from the pilot back on the show. And they finally relented in season 2. So we got to put Raj on, and Raj is brilliant. I believe that Raj actually outranks the Beast in the standings for these national trivia contests that take place every year. So we knew Raj was a superstar, and the Beast knew Raj was a superstar. And sure enough, Raj became the only surviving player in that episode. So whatever money was in the bank would go only to him if he could beat the Beast, and he did. And he won $125,000, which for GSN was an astonishing win, the most money they had ever given to a single contestant. And he did it with great ease. We never had that big a win again on the show. We did have a $180,000 win later, but that was split among 3 people.
9 to catch, 32 seconds on the clock. Your time begins again. Now, traditionally, what's the primary vegetable in coleslaw?
Cabbage.
Correct. On July 4th, 1826, Thomas Jefferson and what other former U.S. president died?
Adams. John.
Correct. Vedic astrology originated in what country?
India.
Correct. Former wrestler The Rock now acts in movies under what birth name?
Dwayne Johnson.
Correct. In 2000, who became president of Syria?
Assad.
Correct. Called the Incorruptible, what French revolutionary was guillotined?
Robespierre.
Correct. What Greek god was condemned to support the sky on his shoulders?
Atlas.
Correct. The word laser is an acronym in which the R stands for what? You did it! You just won $180,000 between the 3 of you! $60,000 each! Wow! Tonight's team has beat the Beast!
So you had huge amounts of money on the board on most of the episodes, and that was great for GSN because their budgets are not as high as broadcast network budgets. So they couldn't afford to give away huge amounts of money, but the way the Chase is built, you could have that amount at stake and not give it away most of the time. So you're still benefiting from the excitement of a potential huge prize, but you don't have to give it away a lot. So that was one of the reasons I think that we endured and that we got as big an audience as we did.
How were the Chase offers determined? Because I'm presuming Mark didn't make up the cash amounts by himself. Were they determined solely by the contestants' performance in the cash builder? Were they based on heightening the drama throughout the game with bigger offers?
Well, it was a rough formula, but it was not a locked-in formula. We looked at their performance. We looked at their potential to challenge the Beast. We had a sense as to whether the players would go up against him and take the high offer. So the producers would craft an offer that we would think would cause drama in the contestant as to whether they wanted to gamble their participation on the show by going up to the high amount and challenging the Beast 1 degree higher. So we would feed that information to Mark, and then he would reveal it.
Where did the idea for the super offer come from?
Well, season 4, we had a 20-episode order, and we wanted to come up with a gimmick that would make the show more promotable and add layers of drama that we hadn't previously had. So with the permission of our partners from the UK who didn't have that element in their show, we tried out a couple of times, I think we did it 3 times, an offer that was even higher than the high offer, usually significantly higher. And that was basically a no mistake choice. So if you chose the super offer, you could not get any questions wrong that the Beast got right, or you would be out of the game. So that was an enormous gamble. And none of the players ever took the super offer. But, man, did it create a lot of tension and a lot of drama when we put that up there.
Quickly going back to when you said GSN wanted Mark Labette to be the sole chaser for the series, were there other people in mind to be the chasers for the GSN version of The Chase? And when you were pitching the show to GSN, did you want a rotation of chasers?
I believe that ITV did want a rotating panel because that had worked so well for them in England and still does to this day, by the way. So I think it was GSN just getting their way. They said, we love Mark. He's a character. He's enormously large in height and weight. And they were so caught up by him, they said, we want him to be essentially the star of the show, not taking anything away from Brooke Burns, who was one of the most amazing hosts I've ever worked with and a delightful, delightful human being. But they liked the 1-2 punch of Brooke and Mark. They liked the relationship between them. In England, the relationship between Bradley Walsh, the host, and Mark Labette, when he's on that show, is more of sort of pals. They have a sort of a bromance going on that they tease each other and tantalize each other and have some fun with their adversarial relationship.
Which Jerry Anderson character worked for the World Intelligence Network? A, Lady Penelope. B, Captain Scarlet. C, Joe 90. Come on, Ewan. I know this. I used to love this show. I know it. I can't give anything away. You've put Captain Scarlet.
Yes, when I was young, this was my favourite television programme. I remember the Mr-Ons, but I really don't remember what the intelligence network was called. I know that Lady Penelope was from Thunderbirds, and Joe 90 is not a character I know anything about whatsoever.
To go through with $5,000, correct answer is... It's Joe 90.
Of course it was.
The kid spy, the kid genius.
I think he's got it.
How old are you, Ewan?
I'm 26.
Yeah, you see, it's a bad question for you, really, because anyone of our certain age would know exactly it was Joe 90. Chasers put.
I did not expect that.
Bluff.
You are kidding me! Yes! We're still in. Oh, I thought you'd have that nailed on.
No, I remember watching Joe 90. Wasn't he got programmed for his glasses?
You got it. I love Joe 90.
Don't forget, I'm a few years younger than you, so I only caught the tail end of it. Never watched Captain Scarlet.
Oh, how jammy was that? Come on, son, we're still in it. Come on.
But here, GSN loved the idea of Beauty and the Beast, and they really liked the repartee that Brooke and Mark had established, so they just didn't want to give that up, and I think it made for great television.
Well, it certainly did, because The Chase was actually nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Game Show in 2014. I'm sure that was a delight to find out that you were nominated.
Game shows have been part of daytime television since the birth of the medium. Whether it's answering trivia, estimating the price of a prize package, solving a puzzle, or trading money in for what's behind curtain number, game shows continue to capture our interest and imagination. And the nominees are...
For Outstanding Game Show, the American Bible Challenge, The Chase, Jeopardy, Let's Make a Deal, The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune.
Yes, to this day, it's my only Emmy nomination. I had been involved with the Television Academy for many, many years, decades, in fact. I'm still involved with the West Coast Academy. I'm on the Board of Governors of the Television Academy in L.A. So I was very close to the people who ran the Emmy contest on both coasts, and to actually be a nominee one year was an unbelievable thrill. I remember getting up at 6 a.m. the day that the nominations were announced and going quickly to the website and looking it up, and I noticed our show was on it. And I ran in and woke up my wife, and I said, guess what? I'm an Emmy nominee. and it was a wonderful moment. It was something I'm very proud of.
Finally, is there any chance that you think The Chase will ever come back? Because I would love to see new episodes.
I would love to see new episodes, too. A lot of decisions that are made these days are budgetary. It was an expensive show, and as well as it did, I think the formula that GSN has adopted in their new management now is to do more efficient production, to do the strip shows that they're doing. Strip meaning every day of the week, 5 days a week of new episodes. Those shows are much more cost-effective than The Chase was. So never say never. I know that ITV is very proud of the show and would love to get it on somewhere, someday, but I don't believe there are any solid plans for that to happen right away.
Well, I'll be crossing my fingers, hoping The Chase will be back in America one day, sooner than later, and that you will finally win the Emmy Award that you deserve.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I would love an Emmy. Unless you're on a legacy show like Jeopardy or Price is Right, it's pretty hard, honestly. I mean, there were a couple of years when Cash Cab won the Emmy, which was a quirky little thing, but pretty much you can bet your money every year it's going to be Price is Right or Jeopardy. So since I don't work on those shows, I think it's unlikely that I'll win an Emmy, but I'm thrilled to be nominated. I know that's an often used cliche, but I was thrilled to be nominated, and I will always be proud of my work on The Chase, and I'm glad it's still running and doing well.
Well, Bob, we have reached my favorite portion of the game show where I create an original game for my special guest to play on the air. It is time for the game of the day.
Game of the day.
And if you recall, Bob, at the top of the show, I gave you a tease to what the game of the day would entail, and I said that it was going to be a 2-for-1 revival. Well, the reason I said that was because, Bob, you'll be playing a game I like to call Game Show Mashup. Game Show Mashup.
Okay.
And the reason it's called Game Show Mashup is because I have combined elements of 2 game shows that you have worked on into a single game. And like I mentioned earlier, these 2 game shows are the newest additions to ABC's Summer Fun and Games Game Show Revival lineup. Bob, you're about to play a game show mashup consisting of Card Sharks and Press Your Luck.
All right. Very exciting.
Bet you never thought Press Your Luck would end up on the radio.
It's not much of a game for radio, but if anyone could pull it off, you can.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint your expectations of me. So without further ado, here's how Game Show Mashup works. The game is divided into 2 rounds, and at the start of both rounds, you'll play the ever-popular Card Sharks bonus round game, the Money Cards. Your goal is to accumulate as many points as you can playing the money cards, because those points will earn you additional picks at the Press Your Luck board. For both rounds, I will give you 3 picks for free, and for every 2,000 points earned in the money cards, you'll earn an additional pick, up to a total of 9, making 12 overall picks available for each round. The second part of both rounds features the Press Your Luck board, which contains 18 different cards, just like 18 squares on the real show. On the back of 15 cards are point values, some of which also contain an additional pick. However, on the back of 3 of the cards is a whammy. If you hit the whammy, you lose all the points you have accumulated up to that pick, and if you hit all 3 whammies in a single round, that round is over. However, at any time during the first round, you may freeze and protect the points you have earned, but the round will end right then and there, and any remaining picks will be forfeited. Those points that you froze will then carry over to the next round, and by the end of the second round, if you can accumulate 12,000 or more Press Your Luck points, you will be deemed a winner. So those are all the rules that you need to know, Bob. Are you ready to play?
I am ready to play.
Then let's play Game Show Mashup. So we're going to begin with round 1, and for the money cards, as you know, I'll start you off with 200 points, and it's your job to bet your way across the bottom line of 4 cards, predicting if the next card is higher or lower than the one preceding it. When we get to the second line, I'll give you an additional 400 points and 3 more cards to bet your points with. Minimum bets are 50 points until you get to the top card, the big bet, where you must wager at least half of your points. In addition, you can change 1 card per line by using any one of the 3 spare cards I am also dealing out. All right, remember, every 2,000 points you end the money card segment with, you will earn an additional pick at the Press Your Luck board. The cards have been shuffled, cut, and dealt. So, Bob, here we go with the money cards. I'll give you 200 points. And here comes your first card. It is a 5. How many points you want to bet on that 5? Or, of course, you can change the card as well.
Okay, let's go 100 higher.
100 points higher than a 5. Ooh, a 2. That's okay. You lost 100, but you have a deuce.
Well, let's go all of it higher.
All of it higher. It's a 9.
Let's change that.
1, 2, or 3.
Number 2.
Number 2. The 9 is now an ace.
All of it lower.
All of it lower than an ace. It's an 8.
Ooh.
You now have 400 points, but the 8 now gets moved up to the second line where I give you another 400 points. So you now have 800 points, and you can change the card.
Let's change that, please.
1 or 3?
1.
Number 1. The 8 is now a deuce.
All right. All of it higher.
All of it higher than a 2. A 5. You have 1,600 points.
600 higher.
600 points higher than a 5. Ooh, a 3. But that's okay. You have a 3 and 1,000.
Let's go all of it higher.
All of it higher than a 3. An ace! An ace! And we're going to move the ace up to the big bet. You have 2,000 points. What are you going to do?
Well, you know what I'm going to do. All of it lower.
For 4,000 points, meaning 2 extra picks at the Pressure Luck board, it's a 9. You got it.
Yay!
With those 2 bonus picks, you now have a total of 5 picks for this round of Pressure Luck. Remember, for Pressure Luck, there are 18 cards, 3 of which have a whammy, and you need a total of 12,000 points to win. So, Bob, which number first?
7.
Number 7, and you stop on 1,000 points and a pick. So you have 1,000 points. You still have 5 picks. So which number would you like next?
All right, let's go 3.
Number 3, and you stop on 1,250 points. You now have 2,250 and 4 picks left. Now you can freeze and take those points into the next round, but those 4 picks will be forfeited. So Bob, do you want to press your luck or freeze?
I'm going to freeze.
You're going to freeze at 2,250?
Yep.
Okay. Those points will carry over to the next round, and we will play our second round of the money cards.
All right.
Now, the cards for both Card Sharks and Pressure Luck will be shuffled, so you have an equal chance to get everything again. And remember, you still need another 9,750 points in Pressure Luck to win. So the money cards have been shuffled, cut, and dealt once again. Here is 200 points, Bob. And your first card is a queen.
100. Now let's go all of it lower.
All of it lower. I like your style. It is a 10. You have 400.
100 lower.
100 points lower than a 10. It's a 3, and you have 500 points and a 3.
All of it higher.
That's what I like to hear. Oh, no, a 2.
Oh,
but that's okay. That is perfectly fine. You have a great card, and we're going to move you up. You still have 400 points.
All right. All of it higher.
All of it higher. It's a queen, and you have 800 points.
All of it lower.
All of it lower than a queen. A 7. And you can change the card if you'd like.
Let's change it.
1, 2, or 3.
2.
Number 2, the 7 with 1,600 points is now a 5.
600 higher.
600 points higher than a 5. A 10. You have 2,200. We're going to move the 10 up. You must bet at least 1,100, but you can change the card.
Let's go 1,800 lower.
1,800 points lower than a 10. An 8. You got it.
Yay!
Those 4,000 points mean once again you have earned 2 additional picks for a total of 5 in Pressure Luck. And remember, you need 9,750 points to win the game.
All right.
Back to the Pressure Luck board. Keep in mind, you may pick the same numbers since all of the cards have been reshuffled. So Bob, which number would you like to pick first?
Let's start with number 10.
Number 10. And Bob, you stopped at 1,000 points and a pick. So you have 3,250 and 5 picks still. Which number next?
All right, let's do Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. Stop at 4,000 points and a pick. You now have 7,250 points, and you still have 5 picks. Remember, one card has 5,000 points in a pick, so if you get that card, you'll be a winner.
Okay, let's go 12.
Number 12. Let's see what that's worth. You stopped at 5,000 points in a pick. Bob, you got it. You just won this game of Game Show Mashup.
Yay! And no whammies. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations, Bob, and thanks so much for playing Game Show Mashup.
Thank you.
Game Show Mashup. Well, Bob, this has been an absolute treat for me to talk with you today and to play that game with you. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of The Game Show.
Thank you.
And like all of my guests, you have an open invitation to join me again whenever you'd like. And I know there is so much more we can talk about in the world of game shows. So hopefully in the near future, we can have another chat.
I would love to do that. You're a great host. You do your homework, and I love how big a fan you are of game shows.
Well, me being a big fan is thanks to people like you who make great game shows. All right, Bob, thank you again for joining me on the game show today, and I look forward to our next conversation.
I appreciate it, Bradley. Take care.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Well, I can't believe I have to say this, but we have reached the end of another episode of The Game Show. I know, it's like the whammy just stole the time away from us.
Hasta luego, arrivederci, bon voyage, that means goodbye.
But my thanks again to Game Show super producer Bob Boden, aka TV Bob, for being my guest today. Now, if you're saying to yourself, gee, I'd sure like to binge listen to episodes of The Game Show right now. Or if you're saying to yourself, I want to check out this episode again, as well as the extended version of this episode featuring additional audio clips and more conversation with Bob Boden, well, you're in luck because you can do all of what I just mentioned by logging on to www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke, that's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. That's www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke, that's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and hashtag The Game Show. And of course, be sure to tune in next time for another exciting episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and I've got to go get ready for my chase with the Beast. Mark Labette is going down. Bye for now.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke and was recorded at the WRHU studios. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.